Central as in a democracy says, Emma, a couple weeks ago you said Katie Porter is not that good at politics when commenting on her potential run for California governor. And then the next breath you said you'd prefer to see Kamala run. I prefer her to run for California governor and not president is what I meant, or what I said. Who is so good at politics she campaigned with Liz Cheney and gave into every brain dead establishment consultant's idea. Could you expand on this preference? Not a preference. In a world that I could make, like, you know, snap my fingers of the candidates that are available, I would love for Katie Porter to be the California governor. I think she's shown some really poor political instincts in a variety of different instances, including in her Senate race, including in the half-baked embrace of Israel and Israel money. And Kamala Harris probably is going to have like another campaign that she runs in. And I don't want her running for president. I think that's a bad idea. I think it's bad for the party to continue to even associate with that campaign and with the Biden presidency. I would rather her stay in California and run in that race, but because I don't really think Katie Porter, frankly, has a chance to win. But we'll see. We'll see. It's 2026. It's a ways away. And you could do better than Kamala Harris for Democrats. But there hasn't really been anybody that stepped up in California. The guy that stepped up is the consultant, right? That freak that helped with the Labor Party, and he's running in California for governor.
Oh, really? The Obama guy?
Yeah. So like,
up with the Tories.
Just from, I don't live in California, but like, and New York Democrats have a ton of problems, but it feels like between Newsom and like Schiff and Padilla, who have been shown complete cowardice too on some of like the immigration stuff, like there's really not much to go but up. And like, I just don't want to see a guy like Dr. Phil or something who ends up running as a Republican winning that race. And Kamala has the name recognition to do that. So that's my thinking on that front.
I can't even worry about the California governor race right now. We got Andrew Cuomo to deal with for the mayoral race in New York City.
But it's just about how I hope that her national political ambitions are done. Like that's my reading of that situation.
Yeah, I would encourage her to leverage her law enforcement background and political campaigning abilities and run for dog catcher somewhere.
I don't think she could make it out of a Democratic Party primary, even with the name recognition of being the vice president.
She keeps polling at the top. That's my concern.
That's right now. That's because she was the nominee in 2024. I don't think she could win if they actually had like a debate. She just doesn't have the sauce.
Once she starts campaigning, people will remember. People remember exactly why things worked out the way they did.
Yeah. I hope so.
I mean, also, there's a very good chance, too, that she learned zero lessons from all of this, because you could just look at that.
Bender, I need to interrupt you. I'm sorry. She is going on the record saying she's looking into this abundance stuff and doing some other adjustments.
Yeah.
I have not looked into this abundance stuff. I refuse to learn about abundance.
My point is, I don't know if you guys saw this podcast interview. I think Matt Leck, you saw, because I think I saw that you shared it with Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
We have this. I mean, Elizabeth Warren hasn't gotten over the talking points from 2024, then you better believe Kamala Harris is going to stick with them too, which will be a sure losing position next time around.
Yeah. I would agree with that. That was a funny interview with Elizabeth Warren. And this is the thing is like, I think, maybe Sam and I have had some disagreements on this and not severe ones, but like, I do think that the Biden age thing traveled more than we realize, and people thinking that was a cover up and an abdication of responsibility, and it hurt the Democrats' brand more than they realize.
They have so many things going against them. They don't need to add extra ones. It's like it's such a web of problems that like every little bit counts. When it comes to why they don't do well.
But with this one here, this clip is from a celebrity-oriented podcast called Talk Easy. Mm-hmm. And this is so it's not a political real person. They have celebs on and stuff like that, and going to tight. And this is the conversation that she has here, and it's interesting because it's like they're going to these because I think they're expecting easier interviews, but this is what normal people saw. They saw that they're being lied to about a guy's age, and at the same time they're being hectored about the importance of democracy by folks. And I thank God that this hasn't splashed back onto Bernie Bernie and AOC, and people haven't lost trust in them for that, because I thought their approach to it was wrong too. But here's this that we're talking
they've
about.
Got to throw her on. They've got to throw him under the bus. Kamala should have. Warren should here, and Bernie and AOC need to.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I'm sorry.
Wow, that pause was pregnant with like quadruplets.
No, she's literally about to break out in laughter, and I want everyone watch this woman, watch Senator Elizabeth Warren's hands. I've never seen somebody clutch their fists that tightly in an interview, and she almost lets out a full laugh here. Just go back, yeah.
She should have just let it rip.
She should have. This is how they could regain their trust if they're honest here.
Yeah.
True.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline.
That's a very lawyer answer.
At that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
Not when I said that. You know, the thing is,
Now, the way that could be true is that people were noticing Joe Biden was in severe decline even before that. So, like, that's kind of a half truth I think she's trying to get away with there. But anyway.
There was reporting that some Democrats were taken aback by his condition because he was so cloistered. But that underlines the issues with the party, which is that there wasn't due diligence on that front. So I believe that there were a lot of Democrats taken aback by his debate performance because they probably saw him at 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. and then it was horrible, but like
I still
still doesn't matter.
I still maintain that one of the biggest mistakes that his campaign made was not preparing people for that debate performance. They should have told people ahead of time he was going to be bad. They should have said he got kicked in the head by a horse. They should have sent him out there with like a Band-Aid around his forehead with like
Sorry.
with like a little blood spatter, and then they could have distracted from that, because having the veil just ripped off for everybody at that moment was I think very jarring. You saw how Joy-Ann Reid responded. Right. It was like I believe people were definitely shocked. I think that people were kept away from him except for in discrete moments where you're like, oh, he's just having an off day or something like that. But the problem is they still ran interference for him as though they had a lot of contact with him. And I think I understand a lot of the mentality amongst like liberal commentators, more liberal aligned commentators, the Democratic Party, progressives who might feel, alienated by those status quo Democrats' positions, but still want to work with them on them. Where it's that like they understand that at least within our system, Democrats are the best only real current thing standing between the Republican Party and having their entire process. And so a lot of times they feel very, I think, pressured to leverage their own legitimacy, leverage their own respectability, leverage their own like fan base to run interference for the Democratic Party, who will just simply not follow through or meet you halfway on that once you've done that. Like you tell people to go out there and vote for Joe Biden because he's fine mentally, then he gets on stage and just fumbles the ball. Like, it really is just something that like people have to break themselves out of, like understanding that the Democratic Party is not going to meet you where you meet them sometimes.
Yeah.
But the real question for the real issue for me isn't so much that like, okay, listen, they did what they did then. That's just what it was. That's what it is. It is what it is. What happened. But like, still, like after he dropped out, Kamala continuing to back up Biden and defend him and all that, and the actions that were taken, and then now fast forward to after Trump's already won and he's the president of the United States, and you have Elizabeth Warren still not being able to just throw Joe Biden under the bus. He has no power over you. Why are they continuing to act like he just had a bad moment and he was as sharp as a tack and nothing was wrong with him? Like,
right. And it's not even like Obama, where the base, like it or not, still likes Barack Obama. He could probably win a primary if he was able to run for a third term. Unfortunately, Democratic voters are still very on board the Obama train, although he sounds much more out of touch these days than normally. But like, Biden is not well liked by anybody.
I'll tell you, Obama would have thrown Biden under the bus. If the situation was the opposite, where if it was like, Obama was in Kamala Harris's position, he would have thrown Biden under the bus so fast it would have given you whiplash. Like Obama,
he was actually good at politics.
Yeah, he understood that like it's it's his brand over Democratic Party's brand, and that he was going to like promote himself over the Democratic Party. And people like that. People don't like the Democrats. We've seen that. Like, people don't like Democrats. And I think some of this with Elizabeth Warren and other people is that they're just afraid of weakening the Democratic Party further, which by nature of our political duopoly just seems like it empowers the Republicans. So you get that fear of like, well, if I speak poorly about the Democrats, it's going to make the Republicans seem better. And it's just like, you know, I don't think that's really the biggest concern we should have right now.
Yeah.
People don't like seeing a butt naked emperor in front of them and have everyone say, no, he's got clothes on. And actually, they're very nice clothes. They're very expensive clothes. And why, I don't know why you're saying that he's standing there naked. We can all see, you know, I was a producer at CNN during the 2020 primary. And there was this whole narrative, as I'm sure you all remember, about Biden's stutter, you know, and if you were to ever make any insinuation, you know, that he's getting up there in the years, and I don't know, maybe it's, you know, remember there was a whole discussion about like, well, if he passes away, then Harris would be president. Isn't that great? And that's why he's going to pick the first black woman to be the vice president. But if you ever insinuated that that was more than a stutter at CNN, people would like rip your head off. Like I was worried about my job security anytime I would pipe up and suggest that Biden was getting old. And I, you know, as we all do, you watch his speeches, you watch his press appearances. I was not there with him physically. I don't think you needed to be inside the White House to know that he was fading. All you had to do is watch the raw feed of his speeches.
How dare you
in
say
terms of my
that?
neurological capacity.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm staying in the race.
damn it, we're crossing streams.
I mean, I watched the vice presidential debate between him and Paul Ryan live. I watched the one between him and Sarah Palin live. And the difference between that Joe Biden and the Joe Biden who was even at the primaries in 2020 was night and day. And anyone could see that. And I think ultimately people just aren't very connected to our political system in the way that they care about it. But I will say the stutter narrative, the moment he got elected, people stopped talking about that. I've never seen something get abandoned so quickly. Suddenly it was like, okay, that was done. Okay, no one wants to talk about the stutter anymore. That's fine.
Yeah. Right. And also, like, even the Kamala would be president is so great thing was used so cynically, where he picked her as a black woman and made it very clear that he was picking a black woman, which I think undercut a lot of like her candidacy going forward and gifted the Republicans this DEI thing. They would have done the racism and misogyny anyway, but he still like made it more difficult for her to be his predecessor, which I also think was a part of this man's ego, where he didn't really want that. He wanted to be president for another 4 years when he couldn't.
He was going to be a bridge. He was going to be a bridge.
I mean, he was going to be a bridge, but not for her. Then why select her? Why not?
More
like,
of a peer.
how does somebody who was about to be 80 years old not make their vice president their ideological successor unless you're the egomaniac blue Trump that Biden is, frankly? But keep going.
The thing is, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise.
Whoopsie.
He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right, fair enough. Look, the question is, what are we going to do now?
Okay.
Wow.
They were holding up the guy from Weekend at Bernie's. How was I supposed to know he was dead?
Blaze Chadwell. Emma's such a Warren supporter. You got me. No, I voted for Bernie twice in the primaries, but I like Elizabeth Warren. That's 100% true. I think she does some good things, but this is a problem with the party more broadly. And like the fact that they silenced
Bernie and
dissent
AOC
on
aren't
this.
great on this exact question.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, yeah. I think she's by far the second best senator that we have. But the problem is that there should be people that like I hope for a day when Elizabeth Warren is at the center of the Democratic Party, but that is not where we are.
People within the Democratic Party have to hold the Democratic Party establishment to account.
Yeah.
It can't just be about like ensuring that the people who vote for you don't see how, corrupt and bad people like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer are, because then that just empowers Republicans to be the first people to say something like that. And then people go like, oh, that's true.
Right. Including the Gaza stuff too, right? I'm sorry, Bender, but just really briefly, Trump just had to say, this is bad, this is wrong. And it was like the first time people had even heard that, because all of the Democrats were like this Biden H thing, we gotta, no criticizing the president, no daylight, no, that's what Trump said, or Biden said to Kamala too, but this is across the party, no daylight, kid. They are building a party based on gaslighting they built the last 4 years. There was so much gaslighting, and they are really cynical about the American public and don't see that people can pick up on it.
Yeah. And they feel like the people who can pick up on it are so afraid of what Republican politicians will do if they're in power. They'll just gaslight themselves. They'll lie. They'll either knowingly lie to other people, or they'll lie to themselves about what's going on because of the consequences of the truth.
Yeah.
Can we just give Julian Castro a little victory lap here for the time he actually said what needed to be said in 2019 and could have saved us all from this?
Barack Obama's vision was not to leave 10 million people uncovered. He wanted every single person in this country covered. My plan would do that. Your plan would not.
They do not have to buy in. They do not have to buy in.
You just said that. You just said that 2 minutes ago. You just said 2 minutes ago that they would have to buy in. You said they would have to buy in.
Have to buy in. If she qualifies,
are you forgetting what you said 2 minutes ago? Are you forgetting already what you said just 2 minutes ago? I mean, I can't believe that you said 2 minutes ago that they had to buy in, and now you're saying they don't have to buy. You're forgetting that.
They dragged him for this. They dragged him for
ableist.
Yeah, for weeks. Ageist. How could you say that? How could you say that?
I remember distinctly, I was on a TYT panel watching that debate in the LA studio, covering it with them. And I was the only one there that thought that landed. And everybody else there thought that it would come off as really mean and hurt Castro. And I don't know who was right at the end of the day, but it was just interesting given what we know now about their politics, that was their reaction to that. In addition to the fact that they sold their email list to the Biden campaign.
Right. I mean, it definitely hurt Castro, but it also it seems to be the truth.
I will say the only other thing I want to highlight from that clip is that whenever people say that the Democrats need to learn to speak to like the American people, they need to learn to speak to like the left, like the progressives, to the average citizen, I would highlight that presidential primary where basically everyone on that stage pretended like they were in favor of Medicare for all in one form or another.
Yes.
Because they knew it was popular. Like the Democrats know what's popular, and when they're forced to debate each other for like an audience, they will pretend, they'll run to the left, they'll all copy Bernie's positions because they know they are popular. And then when it comes to the general election, they know they don't have to try as hard because they know Republicans are so far to the right that they can just go like, well, yeah, I'm not going to do fascism explicitly.
Yeah. All right. With that said, folks, what do we have
Run
here?
for president, Julian. This is Trump talking about how he doesn't want to raise taxes on rich people.
Oh, okay. So this is interesting. The Republicans want to extend the Trump tax cuts from 2017, and there has been some level of discussion, just chitter chatter, and I mentioned this last week, but it's not going to happen.
Sort of man bites dog stories.
Right.
That Republicans are thinking maybe we will raise taxes.
Right. And it would be a raise in the top marginal rate. What they were said to have been considering, which spoiler alert, they're not earnest about it. But Steve Bannon apparently wants this and is trying to push the Trump administration. But we're seeing that Bannon has no influence anymore. And the Republican senators are even more captured by representing the wealthy and billionaires specifically, and care a lot about delivering for them with legislation. So they're not going to consider this. But the Trump tax cuts reduced the top marginal rate to around 37%. When they expire in 2026, the top marginal rate would go back up to 39 and some change percent for rich people. And what was said to have been considered was, okay, maybe we'll just let that part of the Trump tax cuts expire, renew the rest of them, so we can raise revenue to justify all of the other cuts that we're trying to put into place. Because if we're doing broad-based tax cuts, that means less revenue for the federal government. We're supposed to pretend to care about the deficit, so we have to find that money somewhere. We're not finding it through Doge because, first of all, it's illegal for Elon Musk to be doing what he's doing. Congress has the power of the purse and it's already been signed into law. The president is supposed to faithfully execute the law in that way, and Trump and Elon were illegally clawing back money or attempting to, even though we're now seeing they didn't do any of that. So that's how Trump was trying to do that on the back end. But you can't. Like, this is a part of the legislative process, and they're between a rock and a hard place right now, especially because the Republicans won lower income people for the first time since the 1950s. They want to come up with some sort of populist veneer. But no, Trump's doing crypto scams, apparently giving billionaires heads up before the tariff stuff, including the Zuckerberg and Jamie Dimon, who sold off a bunch before the tariff announcement. And now here he is saying that he doesn't support or he wants to keep cutting taxes for the rich.
And secondly, would you support a millionaire tax?
I think it would be very disruptive because a lot of the millionaires would leave the country. In the old days, they left states. They go from one state to the other. Now with transportation so quick and so easy, they leave countries. You'll lose a lot of money if you do that. That would, and other countries that have done it have lost a lot of people. They lose their wealthy people. That would be bad because the wealthy people pay the tax. Okay.
That is, by the way, not true.
Where would they go? Like to Dubai?
Yeah, be my guest.
Yeah.
Where a lot of countries in Europe, countries that are comparable to the United States in terms of infrastructure that you can access if you have incredible amounts of wealth, tend to have higher marginal tax rates on the wealthy. Where would they go besides Dubai that would not tax them at a higher rate?
Probably to the Cayman Islands or something like that. Yeah.
Good luck moving your.
Also,
we can control how money moves through our borders.
Also, we know that a lot of the rich people who claim to leave the country, just like when they claim to leave the States, are just lying. Right. They still live in the United States most of the time, or when people were moving from DC to Florida during the pandemic or before the pandemic, they were called out a lot of times for actually still residing in New York or California for the majority of the year. They were just doing so, for political reasons or for marketing reasons, but they were still living where they were living.
Yeah, and Norway tried this 2 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, they implemented a wealth tax of 1.1%, and there was some capital flight. But it did also still raise them revenue because some people stayed behind. And Norway is not the economic powerhouse that the United States is. Part of why this is a stupid argument by Donald Trump, and it's a self-serving one for the millionaires and billionaires that he represents, is that like what we're seeing with tariffs, you can't disentangle the global economy from the superpowers of the United States and China. And yeah, there may be some billionaires that go and hide their taxes overseas like they're already doing. Like we've seen countless reports about the amount of money that's hiding in tax havens already. But we could crack down on that, one, to make that illegal. And two, it's not the same thing as a small country like Norway. The United States has so much business here that it would force some percentage of these billionaires and millionaires to have their money money here domestically. So this is just a way to say hey, it's broken, but if we try to fix it, it would make it worse. So look away.
Also, it depends on how they're making their money too. I know a lot of millionaires and billionaires don't get income, don't get normal income. But as long as you're an United States citizen, you are forced to pay income tax on your money, no matter where you live in the world. It's not as though just moving out of the United States gets you out of paying income tax. And if you expand that to capital gains tax, which you could, they would still, regardless of where they lived, have to pay money to the United States government if they wanted to come back, if they ever wanted to visit. So it's not as though just leaving the United States of America. Trust me, I know, get you out of paying taxes. That's not how it works. Some countries it does work that way, but not the United States of America. So some of that is just like a red herring.
And this is also sort of downstream of the propaganda about these people being job creators. But the truth is, we have been deferring to them. We deferred to them after the great financial crisis to get the economy back rolling, and it was a bad recovery until we started doing more interventionist things in the economy. That's what, under the Biden administration, it became one of the more dynamic, even though it was still massively unequal and impossible for normal working people to afford. It was still a dynamic economy moving a lot of things. And we can do that, and we can direct investment without deferring to people that just sit around trading all day. Because like you said about the things with the tech guys selling off a bunch of stock with the tariff announcements, right? Like the article I read made the point that said even if this wasn't about insider information, these people have a different relationship to their investments than you do. They're looking at it every single day trying to move money around. Most people don't have that luxury to be constantly like seeing, okay, is this Trump thing real? Is this thing not? But they do. And so that's why they installed him in power. All these Zuckerberg, all these freaks installed him in power. And now they get to move money around while you get wiped out.
And they also, like the day traders, remember the whole Reddit stock, GameStop thing?
Oh, yeah.
Robinhood app.
Yeah, like that was a little bit of a nascent kind of understanding of the fact that these hedge funds and these global financial institutions, they treat the increasingly as a casino for them too. And they get inside information ahead of retail and day traders and people on Reddit who, it's not my hobby, but there are some people that are trying to make money that way. And you read like the Wall Street bets or even the stock market Reddit, honestly, this sounds like it's not very scientific, but these are where these discussions are being had by people who may not have leftist politics, but they see that like we are, this is rigged against us. These huge hedge funds, they're getting ahead of this. And like Elon Musk, it just happened yesterday or 2 days ago where the quarterly earnings report came out showing these dismal numbers for Tesla. And by the next morning, what do you know? Tesla stock was bought up by a bunch of people on the cheap. These are the kinds of things that you get to do when you have inside information. But although it was probably Elon Musk who was trying to inflate his own value as he saw that falling apart. Q2 is going to be even worse for him.
Also, a lot of these companies make money off the downturn too. Like It's not all about placing the bet on the winning company. They place bets on who's going to lose too, and they make out like bandits.
Exactly right. Shorting positions, and is it Lutnick that's rumored to have short positions on the United States economy?
I think there was some accusation about that.
You're playing the game called capitalism.
Yes, you are.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.